Leviticus 13. Infections. God spoke to Moses and Aaron. When someone has swelling, or a blister, or a shiny spot on their skin, that might signal a serious skin disease on the body. Bring him to Aaron the priest, or to one of his priest's sons. The priest will examine the sore on the skin. If the hair on the sore has turned white and the sore appears more than skin deep, it is a serious skin disease and infectious. After the priest has examined it, he will pronounce the person unclean. If the shiny spot on the skin is white but appears to be only on the surface and has no hair that turn white, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will examine it again. If his judgment of the sore is the same and it has not spread, he will keep him in quarantine for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will examine him for a second time. If the sore has faded and has not spread, the priest will declare him clean. It is a harmless rash. The person can go home, wash his clothes. He is clean. But if the sore has spread after he has shown himself to the priest and been declared clean, he must come back again. The priest who will conduct another examination. If the sore has spread, the priest will pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease and infectious. Whenever someone has a serious infection skin disease, you must bring him to the priest. The priest will examine him. If there is a white swelling of the skin, the hair is turning white, and there is an open sore in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease. The priest will pronounce him unclean, but he doesn't need to quarantine him because he's already given his diagnosis of unclean. If a serious disease breaks out and covered all the skin from head to foot, however, the priest looks. The priest will make a thorough examination. If the disease covers his entire body, he will pronounce the person with the sore clean, since it turned all white. He is clean. But if there are open running sores, he is unclean. The priest will examine the open sores and pronounce him unclean. The open sores are unclean, and they are evidence of a serious skin disease. But if an open sores dried up and turn white, he is to come back to the priest, who will re-examine him. If the sore have turned white, the priest will pronounce the person with the sores clean. He is clean. 18 through 23. When a person has a boil and it heals in the place of the boil, there is white swelling and reddish white spot. The person must present himself to the priest for an examination. If it looks like it is pre-trend the skin and the hair has turned white, the priest will pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease that has broken out in the boil. If the examination shows there's no white hair in it and only skin deep and has faded, the priest will quarantine him for 7 days. If it then spreads over the skin, the priest will diagnose him as unclean. It is infection. But if the shiny spot has not changed and hasn't spread, it is only a scar from the boil. The priest will pronounce him clean. 24 through 28. When a person has a burn on the skin and the raw flesh turns into reddish white or white shiny spot, the priest will examine it. If the hair has turned white and the white shiny spot and it looks like it's more than skin deep, a serious skin disease has erupted in the area of the burn. The priest will pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease and infectious. But if on examination there is no white hair in the shiny spot and it doesn't look to be more than skin deep and has faded, the priest will put him in quarantine for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will re-examine him. If by then it has spread over the skin, the priest will diagnose him as unclean. It is a serious skin disease and infectious. If by the time the shiny spot has stayed in the same and has not spread but has faded, it is only swelling from the burn, the priest will pronounce him clean. It's only a scar from the burn. If a man or a woman develops a sore on the head or chin, the priest will diagnose him, offer a diagnosis. If it looks as if it is under the skin and has hair in it, and it is yellow and thin, he will pronounce the person residually unclean. It is an itch, an infectious skin disease. But if when he examines the itch, he finds it only skin deep, there is no black hair in it, he will put the person in quarantine for 7 days. On the seventh day, he will re-examine the sore. If the itch has not spread, there is yellow hair. There is no yellow hair in it, and it looks like if the itch is only skin deep, the person must shave, except for the itch. The priest will send him back into quarantine for another 7 days. If the itch has not spread and it looks to be only skin deep, the priest will pronounce him clean. The person can go home, wash his clothes, and he is clean. But if the itch spreads after being pronounced clean, the priest will re-examine it. If the itch has spread in the skin, he doesn't have to look any further for yellow hair. For instance, he is unclean. But if the itch seems that the itch is unchanged, and black hair has begun to grow in it, the itch is healed. The person is clean, and the priest will pronounce him clean. 38 and 39. When a man or a woman gets a shiny white spot on the skin, the priest will make an examination. If the shiny spots are dull and white, it is only a rash that has broken out. The person is clean. When a man loses his hair and goes bald, he is clean. If he loses his hair from his forehead, he is bald. He is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on the scalp or the forehead, it means a serious skin disease has breaking out. The priest will examine it. If the swollen sore on the scalp or forehead is reddish white, like the appearance of the sore of a serious skin disease. He has a serious skin disease and is unclean. And the preacher will pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. 45:46. Any person with a serious skin disease must wear torn clothes, leave his hair loose and unbrushed, cover his upper lip, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean," as long as anyone has the sores. The one continues to be residually unclean. This person must live alone. He or she must live outside the camp. (47-58). If clothing, woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitting cloth of linen or wool, leather or leather work is infected with a patch of serious fungus, and if the spot on the clothing or the leather or the woven or the knitted material or anything made of leather is greenish or rusty, that is a sign of a serious fungus. Show it to the priest. The priest will examine the spot and then confiscate the material for 7 days. On the 7th day, he will re-examine the spot. If it has spread in the garment, the woven or knitting or leather material, it is the spot of the persistent serious fungus, and the material is unclean. He must burn the garment because of the persistent, and the priest examine it. The spot has not spread in the garment. The priest will command the owner to wash the material. That is the spot, and he will confiscate it for another 7 days. He will then make another examination after it has been washed. If the spot hasn't changed in appearance, even though it hasn't spread, it is still unclean. Burn it up. Whether the fungus has infected the back or front. When the priest makes his examination, the spot has faded after it has been washed. He is to tear the spot from the garment, but if it appears in a fresh outbreak, though whatever the spot, in the fire. If the garment is washed and the spot has gone away, then wash it a second time. It is clean. These are the instructions regarding spots of serious fungus in clothing of wool or linen or woven or knitting material or any article of leather for pronouncing them clean or unclean. Thank you for listening to this long chapter. God bless.